In June 2019, the hallowed quiet of Radiohead's creative world was unexpectedly disrupted. Over 16 hours of private recordings from their OK Computer sessions, one of the most revered periods in their storied history, found their way into the hands of a hacker known as Zimbra. What followed was a story equal parts bizarre, maddening, and darkly funny, as it combined the shadowy ethics of online piracy, the obsessive curiosity of a devoted fanbase, and the wry pragmatism of one of Britain's most enigmatic bands.
It's always been, I mean, from about Kid A onwards, it's been a source of directly trying to circumnavigate the media, and the media having to follow what's happening on the internet rather than the other way round.
It all began with a series of cryptic posts on Radiohead's Reddit and fan Discord. Someone had managed to obtain the unguarded jewels of the band's 1997 recording sessions, raw cuts, demos, jams, and alternate takes that had never been intended for public ears. These recordings, stored on mini-discs in the personal collection of Tom York, represented a sprawling archive of ideas at various stages of gestation.
We're just sort of interested in trying that out, trying songs out like that, but yet using the sounds that we develop elsewhere. But I mean, it was as much as well about the fact that we didn't want to consider the record very much. We wanted to just work very fast, and it was written quite fast as well. And it was a process of sort of discovering.
The material offered an unfiltered glimpse into the machinery of a band that, at the time, was at the absolute height of its creative powers. Details of the theft were murky at best. Speculation abounded that Zimbra had managed to exploit gaps in security when these materials were collated in the cloud for the band's 2017 reissue project, OK Not OK, which had already included some OK Computer-era rarities. Others suggested more sophisticated methods or involvement from insiders.
You're using computer in a slightly more raw way, I suppose. And that's what I'm really responding to.
However it happened, the fact was clear. Zimbra was now in possession of over 1.3 gigabytes of audio, including entire alternate versions of beloved tracks and songs that had never seen the light of day. Initially, Zimbra's motivations seemed straightforward. The hacker reportedly demanded $150,000 in exchange for keeping the material private, a claim that was quickly muddied by contradictory statements. "I tossed the $150K figure to someone as a hypothetical," Zimbra later explained in an attempt to downplay the seriousness of the ransom narrative. Then the Reddit post drops, and at this point everyone kind of freaks out. I do, Reddit does too, and it leaks. At first, Radiohead fans were skeptical. Claims of lost archives and unreleased material were not uncommon in fan communities, many of which thrived on speculation and myth-building. But the release of tantalizing audio snippets changed everything. Within days, the band's sprawling online fandom was in a frenzy, with audio engineers and devoted listeners picking apart the leaks to determine their authenticity. Before long, a 65-page spreadsheet dubbed OK Minidisc surfaced, meticulously cataloguing the contents of the archive. Each track, from alternate versions of Paranoid Android to haunting acoustic demos of True Love Waits, was analyzed and time-stamped, revealing an astonishing level of organization and effort from the fan base. Amid the uproar, guitarist Johnny Greenwood took to Twitter with a statement that was equal parts bemused and resigned. "We got hacked last week. Someone stole Tom's mini-disc archive from around the time of OK Computer. For £18 you can find out if we should have paid that ransom." The tweet, drenched in wry humor, revealed the band's unorthodox solution to the problem. Instead of fighting the leak or attempting to suppress the material, Radiohead made the entire collection publicly available on Bandcamp. All proceeds would go to Extinction Rebellion, the environmental activism group with which the band had long-standing ties. It was a masterstroke of damage control. By releasing the archive on their terms, Radiohead effectively undermined Zimbra's plans and reframed the narrative. They acknowledged the intrusion, but refused to treat it as catastrophic. Greenwood described the material as only tangentially interesting and very, very long, warning fans not to expect anything revolutionary. "Not a phone download," he added dryly, referring to the massive size of the files. Yet for the price of a modest donation to a worthy cause, fans could dive into one of the most extensive behind-the-scenes looks at the band's creative process ever offered. What greeted those brave enough to sift through the 18-hour collection was nothing short of overwhelming. The recordings spanned everything from alternate versions of well-loved tracks to half-formed ideas and sprawling jams that hinted at what could have been. Early versions of songs like Lift, a fan favorite that never made the original album, became a focal point of fascination. Here was the song, stripped of its final polish, aching with rawness and vulnerability. It was a glimpse into an alternate history where OK Computer might have sounded radically different. Elsewhere, listeners found fragments of songs that would later resurface on albums like In Rainbows and A Moon-Shaped Pool, offering a rare look at the seeds of future masterpieces. Some demos were barely more than York strumming an acoustic guitar and mumbling melody ideas, while others revealed intricate arrangements that had been left behind. It was messy, sprawling, and utterly captivating, a chance to peer into the band's laboratory and witness the chaos from which their brilliance emerged. But not everyone was thrilled with the release. For some fans, the sheer volume of material was overwhelming. Radiohead's careful curation of their work had always been a cornerstone of their mystique, and the leak threatened to dilute that. Others felt uneasy about the ethics of engaging with stolen material, even if the band themselves had sanctioned its distribution. Greenwood's assertion that the recordings were never intended for public consumption lingered like a warning, casting a shadow over the treasure trove of audio. The question of Zimbra's motivations also remained a point of contention. Was the hacker a disillusioned fan, a chancer hoping to make a quick buck, or something more complex? Zimbra's online presence, characterized by evasive statements and contradictions, only fueled speculation. Theories abounded that Zimbra had invented the Ransom story to deflect attention, or that they had acted out of a misguided desire to share the material with the world. Meanwhile, some fans pointed fingers at a supposed accomplice, Hosorama, whose involvement remained murky. In a particularly surreal twist, Zimbra reportedly impersonated Hosorama in an attempt to throw people off the trail. For Radiohead, the entire saga was a test of their ability to adapt. They had always been a band defined by their willingness to experiment and evolve, and their response to the hack was no exception. By turning the leak into a fundraiser, they not only neutralized the hacker's power, but also reaffirmed their commitment to causes they cared about. It was a lesson in how to turn chaos into opportunity, even when that chaos involves 1.38 gigabytes of personal audio files being stolen. In the years since the leak, Minidiscs, Hacked, has taken on a life of its own among fans. What began as a breach of trust became a document of creative vulnerability, a raw, unfiltered snapshot of a band at their peak. For those who braved its sprawling runtime, it offered moments of breathtaking insight, from the haunting simplicity of York's acoustic demos to the intricate layering of tracks that never made the cut. Yet it also served as a reminder of the fragility of artistic privacy in the digital age. The incident ultimately reaffirmed the peculiar bond between Radiohead and their fans. The band's willingness to embrace the chaos of the leak and share their unfinished work spoke to a level of trust and respect that few artists command. In doing so, they turned an act of violation into an act of generosity, all while raising money for a cause that mattered. As Greenwood quipped in his tweet, "Rainy out, isn't it though?" It was a fittingly understated end to a saga that was anything but.